What's going on, guys? It's Justin from Push and Profit. Hope everyone's having a beautiful day today. Now, in this video, I want to talk about whether it's a good time to buy into Apple stock, right? And I'm going to talk about this from two different approaches, both as an investor and as a trader, right? So stay tuned, watch the whole video. By the way, I make videos like this very often, so if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel, and also hit that like button. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm, right? Now, going into it, right, the first thing I want to take a look at is the ticker symbol SPY, which is, overall just the ETF for the S&P 500, right? So basically, the S&P 500 is, really tracks just the overall market, and Apple is a big holding in the S&P 500. So it's just very crucial and important to look at what direction the overall market is heading at, because Apple does, or actually a lot of stocks pretty much follow what the overall market is doing. And then from there, we'll take a technical analysis approach at what's going on with Apple. So real quick, going into it, we could see that, before the whole coronavirus came into play, stocks were pretty much going to all-time high. Then, of course, this deadly crash came about, and, we fell down, right? And ever since the ending of March, we have been on this tremendous bull run, right? We just have been going up. And to be honest, I couldn't believe it because it just had no pullbacks, right? And the thing is, for stock market to be in a healthy uptrend, it's going to need some pullbacks here and there, right? Think about it like this. Stock just can't forever keep going straight up, right? There's going to be some pullback. So that was really my concern with what was going on. I was saying, okay, when we have a dip, it is going to be a big dip. It's going to be a big pullback. So that's what I was waiting for, right? Especially because that's typically what happens. Now, something you have to understand is that there's this saying that goes in the market that the markets could stay illogical or irrational longer than you could stay solvent, right? And the reason I mentioned this is, we study these patterns, we study these previous behaviors with the stock market, but just because we study those patterns, it doesn't necessarily mean as a 100% reenact or replay those patterns over and over again, right? The market doesn't have to follow what you want it to follow, and that's very important, right? So like I said, the market kept hitting the RSI being oversold, and it would do like the smallest dip to continue going up. And I just couldn't believe it. The feds were pumping the market. There was a lot of things going on, right? Now, we hit this area where we're just extremely overbought. Then the market has this big dip, right? So let's go ahead and try to, make this a smaller time frame and try to, look at this dip. So from the low of it, the market fell approximately 8.27%, right? Which is pretty big, especially in 3 days. That's a lot, right? The market doesn't typically fall down that much. So that's, it was a big sell-off, right? Now, you can see that almost looks like a double bottom pattern over here. If you guys are unsure with your patterns, I do have another video talking about stock market patterns. Go ahead and check that out. Now, again, something that we have to take into consideration is looking at it from a larger time frame, right? We're looking at the 4-hour chart time frame. You have to pay attention to this green line right here. This is the 180-day SMA line. So we were way above it, which is good. We went down, we touched it, we went below it, then it acted as a resistance. We fell below it, and now we're at this area right here. Well, let me try to make it a smaller time frame. We're at this area right here where we're slightly above it, right? So the overall direction does show that, hey, we look like we're making signs to retract back up, but it's not 100% confirmed, right? Now, let's go to the juicy part. Let's talk about Apple. Let's go ahead and type in the ticker symbol, which is AAPL, and take a look. And if you look at a larger time frame, just to show you guys, once this finishes loading, Apple pretty much follows the S&P 500 very well, except I guess it does have more of an exaggerated movement. For example, the S&P 500 only fell about 8% in the last couple of days. But as far as Apple fell down quite a larger portion. So let's go ahead and look at it from a 1-hour view. From the low of Apple to the all-time high that we recently have, Apple fell down 20%. So you can see it fell down a little bit more than the S&P 500, and that's because the S&P 500 is more diversified. It has shares of Apple, it has holdings of everything else, right? Versus Apple is just it's just one stock. So it's like kind of when you have all your eggs in one basket, right? That's why the S&P 500, it does track the overall market, but it's well diverse, right? Whereas Apple is just one stock. So that's just something I want to point out there. Now again, like I said, the market was going up. We had this sell off during the coronavirus. Now as an investor, if you put your money into Apple during the big crash at the end of March, Apple moved up about 150% in these last few months, right? Now, think about that. That's very crazy because if you think about it, basically whatever money you put into Apple, you basically doubled it plus more. So if, let's just make it a small number, right? Let's just say you put in $100 in Apple, you made another additional $150, right? Which is crazy. So basically, whatever, if you put in 5,000, 10,000, you doubled it plus more. So that's something that you got to understand. It's been a parabolic run. All right, I'm glad that I mentioned that. So now Apple, like I said, it's just like the S&P 500. It hovered above the 180-day SMA line once we had this recent sell-off, broke below it, and now we're at this crucial point right here. What is the direction of Apple going to be, right? So let's talk about it from the standpoint of an investor. Like I said, being an investor and being a day trader, two separate different vehicles, right? They're both participants in the stock market, but they're two different vehicles. It's like having a Honda and a Lamborghini on a drag race, right? They're on the same race, but they're two different cars, right? Now, an investor, we're looking at a long-term play. We're talking about, years of Apple, right? Now, from my, perspective, I would say that right now, it does look like a good time to invest in Apple. Now, I'm not saying to put your whole entire life savings in Apple. No. You got to do your part, your due diligence, your risk mitigation. You got to mitigate your risk. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's terrible. That's like someone taking their entire life savings and putting it in Tesla, and people actually did that, and they lost a lot of money, unfortunately, right? So now Apple, it did have this 20% sell-off. So, but if we're looking at Apple from a large time frame, let's look at Apple in the last. Let's look at 5 years, right? 5 years of Apple. If you look at Apple in the last 5 years, look at how it's just consistently going up. Yeah, there's times where Apple has a major sell-off, here, right? And this area right here, this red candle is actually the financial crash of 2008. So yeah, the stock market, it does have its crashes, but on the longer time frame as an investor, right, the market overall just continues going up. Now, it doesn't have to do that, but that's pretty much what the trend has been for, decades with the stock market, right? So right now, with Apple having this 20% drop in the last, few days, I would say that it is a good opportunity to, as an investor, to get into Apple, right? It has a potential of just very quickly making that 20% back and then plus more. So as an overall investor, it's just, a good long-term play. I'm not going to lie. Now, looking at it from the perspective of a trader, right? Swing trading, day trading, whatever the cause might be, we got to, take it at a different approach, right? Now, Apple, like I said, it is, below this 180-day SMA line, right? If we're looking at the 4-hour view, it is, a little bit above it, right? But if we're looking at a smaller time frame, just 1 hour, it's still below it, right? And it is kind of touching this area, which could be a resistance around here. So let me go ahead and draw some supports and resistances right there for you guys. So right here, this area right here, I would label this area, and this is the red line, if you could see, as a resistance. And the reason I say could be a resistance is because if you look at things from a certain angle, right? Over here, this seemed to be a support. And then over here, this was a support until the next day when it broke above. Then they tried to touch it again and it became resistance, right? So that's just a major area. If we could break above this area, then things might look like we're heading towards a higher uptrend. So I'm going to put an alert, right? Because our jobs is like, opportunity isn't going to be there every moment that we want it to be there, right? We can't create the opportunity, but as far as like in the stock market, you just have to be aware of what opportunity is around and then take advantage once it's there. So I'm going to set this alert for when Apple is above this area. For me as a swing trader, right? Now, I'm not talking about my long-term portfolio. I'm talking about as a swing trader, that's initially when I would want to, make a swing trade with Apple, right? Now, something we also have to take a look at is I have this red line drawn right here, right? Now, this is a support. So if we kind of just like zoom out a little bit, let's go ahead and go to the 4-hour chart again and kind of zoom in. The reason I labeled this as a support is because previously this was a resistance. And if you guys know, old resistance becomes new support, right? So we see right here, it was struggling for Apple to touch this area. It was sideways, moving sideways, consolidating. It became support, ran up, never touched it again. Then it basically touched this area like 3 times, over here, and over here, right? So if we break below this area, and then we kind of zoom in real quick to a smaller time frame. If we break below this area right here, that's just a bad sign that things could continue going down. So as a swing trader or as a trader, I'm gonna go ahead and mark my alerts right over here to notify me, hey, if Apple goes below here, then we might be on a bigger downtrend. So as far as a trader, I'm not 100% sure where the next move is going to be. This is a very crucial moment. Now, something that you also take into consideration is that Apple, today of this recording, had their Apple event, right? Their yearly or annually Apple event. They didn't really go into much about the iPhone. They mostly talked about the Apple iPad and the Apple Watch and things of that nature. Now, again, I'm not someone who really trades based off news, but if we're looking at historical events, pretty much Apple has always done really well when we're talking about December months, right? And that's because they strategically kind of do this. They have their product line be announced during September, like maybe late summer, and then by December that they have multiple sales through Christmas or all winter holidays of that nature, right? Now, again, the iPhone was not mentioned in this Apple event. And that's due because of the coronavirus, because, again, it was pushed back. We're going to hear more about the iPhone in late October, I believe, right? Unless it gets further pushed back. So this year, it's very uncertain what's going to go happen. But like I said, previous trends, right? If we always just look at the trends, we could see that, previous years, let's go ahead to like 2000 and... let's go ahead in 2017 if we could just go. So 2017, basically, Apple had, was moving up. I know it's kind of hard to see because the further you zoom out, the harder it's to see, the actual ticker or the actual stock price action. But historically, Apple just always does well during the winter months, and you could pretty much see that, around here too. It's just something that is just a historical thing. Now, again, we do have different things coming up this year. We have the coronavirus where we're not sure how the consumer spending is going to be, so that's something you got to keep in mind. Now, again, like I said, as an investor, I think it's great to go into Apple. I wouldn't say to put your whole entire life savings, but, go ahead. I think it would be, wouldn't be terrible. Again, trade at your own risk. Just don't trade what I trade. And then, as far as Apple, I would say as a day trader, you just have to look for the day-to-day opportunity. I'm someone who I trade based off of like a lot of indicators. I trade with the RSI, the MACD, the VWAP, the EMA, the SMA, right? And now I just recently started using a new indicator that I'm going to talk about in another video coming forward. Now, again, if you guys are unaware of the indicators that I use, I would please advise you guys to watch some other videos. I have a whole playlist dedicated to, like trading strategies. So it's called Helpful Trading Strategies for Stocks or something like that. So definitely check that out. Also, if you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like button. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. And also consider checking that first link in the description below. Basically, that link is to our free Facebook group, the Push and Profit Facebook group. And that group is really just a community that I'm building of individuals interested in trading in the stock market. And then in that group, I also typically release a nightly watch list. And in that watch list, I include stocks that I personally am invested in long term. I talk about stocks that I'm focused on trading, and then I talk about penny stocks that have potential to profit. I talk about a few other stocks that have potential to profit. Now, again, don't just buy into a stock that you see on that watch list that I provide. Just because I have a whole list of stocks to trade doesn't mean that you guys have to trade it. My job that I try to do is try to provide the opportunity of making a profit, and your job is to see if you guys see value in that opportunity and then taking advantage of it. So again, feel free to check out that link. It's going to be the first link in the description below. With that being said, guys, again, my name is Justin from Push and Profit. Hope everyone's having a beautiful day today. Be careful with trading. A lot of things are uncertain, and then on top of that, we have the election coming up. But again, take care.